When you're doing market research, especially competitive market research, you'll notice, especially going to like reviews, where the shortcomings are of your competitors. That might be that they don't, bill regularly, or they increase pricing without notice. They might never, follow up, or they might skip days. Communication tends to be one of the biggest ones that most of these landscapers are missing. Now, there's also good, consumer market research that you can do. You can see raving reviews of, oh, individuals doing this, this, and this that we love, right? They always come with a smile. They're always dressed professionally, and pretty quickly you can see what to do and what not to do. Um, I bet, Justine, I bet if you think back, the last 20 and some years, you can probably think about like a time where it might be a landscaper, might not have been, where they did something that instantly made you say, "Oh, I love this person, and I'll continue working with them." And ones that like you're like, "Oh, because you did this, I will never work with you again." An example could be, let's say that you have a business, landscaping turf and soil business in Austin, and maybe you have a very specific type of turf that you like to use. There might be an educational component in there, or that your turf doesn't fade in the sun or something like that. There's a very clear, unique selling point that you can actually go to the market with, because maybe when you're doing research, you're saying, "Oh, everyone's worrying about color fade or the smell of the turf, with pets." If you have a unique proposition and selling point, you want to confirm that the market actually has that problem, because you don't want to advertise in something that doesn't really matter. Because we've all seen things from like, oh, I guess that's cool, like I think about that every time Apple has a new phone. They're like, oh, this camera is blah 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Does it still take pictures? And is it probably a little better? Yeah, that's great. Fine. Don't have to go into the mechanics and features behind it. So, uh, finding that unique selling point, again, market research is the best to do it, but also, and this is what most people don't prioritize, is actually having conversations with their clients and customers, getting feedback. Oh, we love when you do this. Oh, we, found you on a Facebook ad, or word of mouth, or in this newspaper. All that gives you unique selling points, and like a long laundry list of things that you can then attack the market with.
Your basic marketing to reactivation to paid media to referrals. They're all going to come down to three pieces: your offer, your market, and then anything else really that you need to put in front of them to sell that. That's what we would call creative or copy, or maybe an image, or something like that. Really, there's typically those three things. Your offer is what you're selling, your market is who you're selling it to. Everything else is how you communicate that to the market. So all the creative stuff is how you communicate that offer to the market. So you need to know those three things, and use those to your advantage to be able to get more leads. Think about those in every single piece of marketing that you do. Anything that's geared towards lead generation, make sure you take a step back and really just think like, who am I sending this to? What am I trying to sell them? And how am I communicating that message to them? If you think about those three things for every single thing you do, it will make a huge, huge difference just having that kind of thought process to think, how is my market responding to my message and my offer? And then if it's not working, it's one of those three things you have to fix.
Yeah, so database reactivation is pretty interesting. I mean, it was coined by, oh my goodness, I'm gonna forget about the guy's name. Oh my goodness, hopefully it comes back. But anyway, it's not something that's relatively new. The way it's positioned has been, but basically, every single person has a multitude of people in their quote unquote database. And when we say database, it's just a list, right? So people we reached out to that booked a call but never showed up, people that we sent a proposal to but ghosted, people who we sent a proposal to and they said they really wanted to work with us, but now's not the best time to do so. Or people that just straight up like stopped working with you, or past clients. All of these are pretty interesting because they are what we call like bottom of the funnel prospects. And for whatever reason, maybe their dog got sick and they didn't sign the doc, or maybe they changed companies or whatever that was. They were interested enough to get to a specific point, but then dropped off. And this could be happen to everyone in your pipeline. So top of the funnel, maybe you send a cool email, someone responded, but they never responded after that, right? That's less warm. And that's more on like the prospecting lead gen side. But database reactivation, like these people already have some type of context on you, your company, what you kind of stand for. And the goal here is pretty simple. Can we get them back on the phone and then see if we can help them? And if we can, let's close them. And the nice thing is there's a lot of elements that you kind of bypass, right? They already know you, somewhat like you, and trust you if they got to a specific stage. And the best ways to do it is three mediums: email, text, call, right? Now you can throw a Loom in there and say that's kind of in the middle, but those are the three main ones that you can actually then contact them with a specific message. Larissa, before we go into like mechanisms or anything like that, where have you seen like people have these databases but don't really use?
Honestly, there's so many people. So a good place to start is always looking at like your current network, maybe on, let's say, LinkedIn, people you've been connected with for a really long time, but you haven't talked to in a while. Those are good places to just kind of start a conversation up. Otherwise, in terms of leads that would probably be more warm, would be looking at your previous calendar. If you use something like Calendly or, a similar software, you can go through all the calendar links that have been like sent and booked, and start with those people. That's a really great place to look. Just generally, like your email inbox is really great. Going through your CRM, and looking at, maybe people that you had marked as like not a good fit or dead deals, or, not closed in whatever way. Looking at those first, because those are ones that they got very close to the end. And maybe if they weren't a good fit before, they are now. Maybe you have a different product offering, or you're repositioning, or you have a different price point that might be more attractive to them.
Well, I mean, the idea of the offer is just to catch someone's attention, right? We want to sell more. I think we all love winter offers, summer offers. Like, we all rush for them. So I think that's the main focus there on the offer, trying to get our audience to buy our product and services.
Yeah, it definitely creates like a sense of urgency, especially when, if we think about an offer at large, it's a lot of like, how do you convince somebody right now that now's the best time? How do you package your services that you offer to make it really compelling?
Yeah, and to that point too, is like an offer isn't necessarily always a discount. What Andreas was mentioning about like timely thing, right? Like they're like in the winter, you're probably not thinking about what you're going to be doing in the fall, right? Because the fall is just habit, right? Like you might have good memories about it, but you're probably thinking about the spring or summer. Or here in Phoenix, like you can't wait for the fall, right? So you wouldn't always be like anchoring on a time thing, right? Memorial Day weekend's coming up, but there's always holidays like 4th of July, Christmas. Like you can always anchor the offer with something seasonal, right? So really, without even having to give discounts or doing anything different, you could stand out from the crowd by having, for instance, now it's May going to June, it's summertime, right? So you shouldn't be running winter offers, because that doesn't really make sense, because you could be saying the same thing, but just because you anchor as winter, you could be completely different from like what it actually is.
There's a bunch of different ways you can package things. So I would say like be really creative with offers and coming up with offers. And I would just say like it's really important to test, because you might think your offer is great, but not everybody else will. So come up with, I wouldn't say pick one, I would say pick like 5 and test all of those against each other. And I would test maybe one by one or 2 or 3 at a time. But, I would keep that in mind of like a compelling offer. It might take different forms, and it might shift and change. What works today might not work in 3 months. People might be more compelled by one thing later than another. So, keeping all that in mind, let the data tell you what the best, most compelling offer is.
Most people undercharge for the value that they bring. This is in landscaping. This is in all types of businesses. One of the worst things that businesses can do is undercharge. Now, you might be saying, oh, Nico, that must be great, but you don't know my situation. You're right. I don't. All I know is that every single job that you do builds additional skill sets, muscles, expertise that makes you more important and valuable to the marketplace. So if you've been charging the same amount for the last 50, 60, 70 years as an organization, might be something up with that. There's this weird thing called gas, and gas tends to go up every year. You can't get a gallon of gas for a nickel. You can't because one, inflation, two, the processes for getting it, three, distribution. There's so much that goes into it. There's less oil this very second than there was yesterday. So that changes the supply and demand curve. So how does this relate to you as a landscaping company, a turf installer, like a home improvement company? How does this relate to you? It's because you need to first understand what it is you're solving for the homeowner, what problem you're solving for, to even think about how much to value it. Because you know, most likely your material costs, your labor, your fees, your dumping costs, taxes, gas to get out there, insurance, you know all that costs, right? But most of the time, homeowners don't know as much as what goes into that project. So before even pricing a project, you understand what is it that the homeowner actually wants and why do they want it. Some people in the artificial turf game are willing to spend $1.50, $2, $3 more every square foot on turf if it's more safe and more pet friendly and more child friendly. Why is that? It's more or less the same product. Again, there's differences to it. But why are they able to command such a premium? Is because the problem that it's solving, the insurance that comes with it, assurance, and frankly speaking, like the route that's going on. So you first want to understand what is it? Have they finally made it and this is their dream backyard? Do they want to save money in the long term because of the xeriscape or artificial turf or whatever that you're implementing? Whatever it is, you want to figure out what the actual problem is that you're solving for, so that one, you can actually solve the problem. You are the expert, so you might be able to suggest things that they don't even know they want or need. Let's say that they hate that the backyard's so dark. You could recommend lighting, LED lighting, that lasts quite a while to do. Now, maybe they didn't start with that project, but it's solving a problem for them, or motion lights, or attaching ring cameras, whatever that is. You need to figure out what actual problem are you solving. Whether you cut grass, mow, take out weeds, whatever that is, like, you are solving a problem. Okay, then you can price it, and you can actually figure out what services make sense for that. Plus, if you're new, you can't charge as much. If you have case studies, if you have testimonials, if you have 150 stars, positive stars on Google, you can charge a premium because that's what they're buying. They're buying the premium of the fact that you know what you're doing. You're not going to mess up. You're not going to have to come out there many times. In the beginning, you're a new company, you might have to take jobs that the other big guys don't want to take, or charge a little lower, or add more things for free on there. That's things you might have to do because you don't have the experience and knowledge base. So this is a long way of saying, how do you even price? Well, you want to figure out exactly what problem is you're solving for. Get services that make sense for them. Figure out their timelines. Maybe they want it done now, and you can charge a premium for that. But it all goes back to, like, what are you actually solving for? I know as soon as people really heard this topic, they started cringing, like, oh, another person saying post more stuff on social and just take more pictures and take more videos. But honestly, there's so much more strategy behind it. But the real reason, the only reason you should focus on this is if you do it consistently, you will get cheaper leads. Some would even say close to free. Now, nothing in this world is free, but doing this is kind of like the old school going to networking events, except you get to do that on a much more passive level, as well as it's more evergreen. So that's all the content is. It's just showing who you are, the work you do, and the things that you care about, but it lives forever, which is kind of scary to think about, but kind of cool at the same time.
Mindset to buy, the first thing they're probably going to go do is they're going to look at your work. So I think it's good to shift the mindset of social media for, and anybody in these kinds of businesses to really shift it towards, think of it as a portfolio. A public portfolio that anybody can search and that you can have, engagement on, But realistically, that's what social media is, and that's why it's really important. You want to have a portfolio of your work. Even if, worst case, you basically just treat it as a repository for all of the photos you've been taking, so that when somebody asks you, because they will ask you, can I see photos of your work? You can say, yep, here, it's on my Instagram. It's all public. Go look at it and, take a look. That really helps showcase your expertise, establish authority, and really, it can help with other things too, but I would say that's definitely the biggest piece. And that's going to help with new client discovery, or with pushing current leads along, or maybe even current clients. Maybe somebody you've worked with previously would see a post that you've done and you'd be like, oh, I see you did this really cool light setup. I want that in my backyard. I know I've already worked with you. I trust you, but it also helps, show people what you can do, give them an idea of the quality of your work, as well as, what they could expect.
3 E's is entertain, educate, and engage. So entertain, get their attention, right? With maybe highlighting your crews at work, maybe doing something funny, maybe it's National Landscaper Day, whatever that is. Entertain them. Then educate them, right? Tell them why turf is better, why maybe you should do sod here, maybe why you should install pergolas here, and what not to do when selecting pergolas. And then engage them, right? Do call to actions on your posts so that you get people talking with you, not necessarily you talking to them, but talking with you. Engage them in the comments. If they ask questions in the DMs, answer that. Jump on the call. Don't be afraid to be human in this, because content is top of the funnel, and you want to move them to the end of the funnel, because that's where the deals close, the work is done, and the profits are made.
One thing I think is important really is that qualification piece. So when leads come in, make sure you're doing something to qualify them. If they see, let's say, your ad and they're interested, that does not mean they're a good fit for you or that they're qualified. It means they've raised their hand and said, okay, I'm interested. Now, let's say you're a landscaper and you only want to work with people that are going to have you install at least 50 square feet of turf or whatever. I think that's kind of a really low number, but let's say that's your floor. And they want you to do an apartment balcony. That's going to be like 20 square feet. Those are the types of people that you might just say, hey, just go to Home Depot and just buy a roll of turf. Like, it's going to be easy for you. Like, I'm not going to send a crew out to do 20 square feet, right? It doesn't make sense. Those are the types of people you want to be qualifying in and out to make sure that you can get them in the right place in your funnel. And if they're not a good fit, do what you can to refer them out, and you can still make a little bit of income from them, not necessarily as much as you would if you were doing a full job, let's say. But if you can refer them to somebody who might be a better fit for them, you're not wasting the lead per se. So that qualification piece is really important to understand who's a good fit for you in your business, who's a good fit for your referral partners, and then who's just not a good fit for anybody. One thing we'll talk a lot about here is what's called speed to lead, meaning you want to be able to contact a lead as quickly as possible to make sure they don't get left, right? Because when somebody replies to an ad, they're interested right now. If you contact them, let's say a week from that date, they just might not be interested anymore. You want to make sure you get them while they're hot leads. So having what's called speed to lead is really important. Speed to lead just means that person gets a message from you confirming and indicating their interest within like 5 minutes of taking that action, whatever that might be. So somebody fills out a form, you don't want them just sitting there for a week. You want them texted immediately, emailed immediately, whatever that next best sequence action is, you want to make sure you're doing that. Typically, you can automate that through your CRM. So in terms of making sure these leads don't get lost, picture this. Lead form filled out. Client goes to CRM. CRM adds to whatever workflow the CRM can do, ideally maybe texting or emails. We typically see the best results with texting because people just have their phones in front of them. That's likely how they filled out the form. So add to workflow, text them right away. That's kind of the simplest piece of it. Then manage those conversations moving forward, but that makes sure everybody gets into an inbox where you can access it really easily, make sure they're not getting lost, and that lead gets communication from your team almost immediately after filling out that form. You can do much more complex workflows. Question, automatically. That all depends on your business, what you're doing, your preferences, all of that. The most important thing is that a lead gets reached out to directly from your team almost immediately. That's a really important step. So we have that, right? That's going to be kind of the basic. That's what most people get to when they fill out or when they create these sort of things. If you have a CRM, even more advanced companies that we work with, they have that piece of lead fills out form, get added to CRM, potentially CRM, and hopefully adds them to a workflow that is going to automatically message them.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, Larissa, you kind of brushed past, like, what is a CRM even?
We'll talk a little bit more about CRMs later and options maybe we recommend. CRM is Customer Relationship Manager. Basically, think of it as your inbox. Ideally, it's your inbox and it's your record of all the contacts you have. Can be used essentially as an address book. Some CRMs have a lot of built-in functionality, like, you can send invoices through some, or you can do billing, or you can send all kinds of different communication, maybe from text, phone, voicemail, email. Every CRM is going to have their own suite of options. But you're right, I did kind of brush past that. CRM, Customer Relationship Manager. You want to put all your leads into a single place you can access and you can manage. And if you're cheap, you can use something as simple as a spreadsheet. Just push them into Google Sheets using Zapier. Not necessarily the recommended version because it's still somewhat easy to lose those, but at least you have a single database of every single lead that comes in. Once leads are qualified, then you need to go through your sales process. Take out any barriers you can to someone giving you money is a big thing, right? That's really key and oftentimes can cause problems if you don't have a good sales process set up. Is if you're like, okay, well, yeah, I got to do like 10 million things before we can accept your deposit or whatever, or maybe you don't offer financing. Well, that's a really big, easy operational tool you can use to help push a lot of leads along in the sales process. And as you're thinking about how to optimize your sales process, and every business is different, what you need, what you don't, there's going to be some key differences. But think about, what is it that you need? What information is paramount? Then make sure you're getting all that info from the lead as best as you can. At first, when they're still a lead, you probably just need basic info, right? You probably just need to make sure you have their contact information, a rough idea of what they're doing, and their budget. That's probably the basic stuff that you need as a lead. Then as they move on the sales process, it gets a little more in depth.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll add to that is something that Larissa said earlier, where you have to adapt to the communication style of the person that you are. So, again, this is just based on our own data. Younger, and we're talking anyone under 40, 45 years old, typically prefers a text, SMS, or email of some sort. Typically, anyone north of that prefers phone call, but every person is different. That's an oversimplification of people. So especially if, let's say you're like any other human, you can't get to the phone every second of the day, right? Maybe it's 11 o'clock, someone fills out your ad, and obviously maybe you're working, maybe you're sleeping at that point. You still want to have a system set up so that they're still getting communication with you, and often you already have all of these questions answered on your website. So having some chat bot or having a SMS sequence built out, so if someone requests more information quote, the text bot can go ahead and get that information for you, so that when you get into the office at 8 or 9, you can give them a call then or continue the conversation. So it's less about like being by the phone or being by the computer 24/7. It's just having that kind of thought out process and having the operations to support the way that your customers want to be communicated with. That most people and most landscapers and most turf installers do not do. They don't pre-frame the ask. So what do I mean by that? Like, what's pre-framing? So, for instance, when you think back to high school, when you're starting a new class, there's this thing called an agenda. Now list out every single thing that you're going to do in the week. Then your teacher is like, we're going to have a midterm. It's going to be in 6 weeks. Right? And then we're going to have a final, and that's going to be at the end of the quarter. It's the last week. And everything we learn from now to then is going to be on the test. So what that teacher did is they pre-framed what's to come. Now with our clients, we should do the same thing. So we're going and doing an estimate, telling them the exact steps. Next, we're going to send you a quote. You have 72 hours to accept it or reject it. Otherwise, if it hits the 72 hours, we're just going to automatically reject it. All the promos will go away. Then after that, we're going to start the project. Okay. They accept, we start the project. Then we tell them midway through, we're going to do a walk around. And then at the end of the project, I'm going to ask for a review. I'm also going to ask for a referral and give you a gift card for everyone that you referred. Great. Then we get to the walkthrough. Then you tell them the next step. Hey, on the next final walkthrough, we're going to do A, B. And then in 4 weeks, I'm going to call you up and I'm going to see how I can better serve you. So each step of the process, we're telling them what we're going to do next. So when they get to that stage where they're already pre-framed that, oh, customers like me do this, right? So that's kind of the 201 is like, we don't want to spring it on people. We want to be straightforward. Hey, we grow because of word of mouth. You said that you liked Johnny's project. It's because Johnny left our review that we're going to be working together. So I want more of you in there. So I'm going to ask for a referral because it really helps my business and helps me better serve you, as well as holding each other accountable. So that's kind of the 201s. Like, you want to pre-frame the ask because it's going to happen. Just make it part of your process that you're going to ask for it, so that when you ask, they don't feel shocked or surprised. They knew it was coming.
Yeah, and I'll add a few more small notes. One is make that ask simple. So don't ask somebody to go do 10 million things for you. If you are wanting a review from them, get a direct link that sends them exactly to the review page. Don't have them go find you and figure out how to do it. Just get them the exact link, have them fill it out there, keep it as simple for them as possible. You can do that on everything from Google My Business to Yelp, and most review platforms you can do that on. You can request reviews simply directly.